Welcome to the business of being healthy, where we are passionate about treating our health as good as we treat our wealth. Shelly Bryan here, and I am obsessed with sharing real-life experiences and wisdom to help save you time, heartache, and money as you continue to grow personally and professionally. Twice a week, we push aside that BS to take massive intentional action. And I promise by tuning in, you will receive the straightforward talk you've been waiting for, filled with actionable steps that will inspire you to achieve the health and wealth you desire while you are building your empire. All right, well, welcome back to another episode here on the Business of Being Healthy show. If you are new to the show, welcome. I'm so excited that you got here and were able to join in. If you're returning, thank you for coming back. And most likely, both of you probably found it from a friend or potentially a search. But what I can say is that this show is growing, and it's growing because of the shares. So if I had one ask, it is to please share the show if you find that it solved a problem for you, if you find it offered you a new perspective and it helped you get one step farther ahead. That's what we're here to do, is to pay it forward, help everyone win faster by sharing experiences, triumphs, challenges, failures, wins, losses, all of the above. And today is no different. And today is one of those, today's day one school back for the kids. And I know summer can be daunting because it's like, what do we have? There's all these things going on, packing it all in. We're off our schedules, our school schedules for my parents out there. I don't know about you guys, but whoop, whoop, I love school schedules. Just kind of keeps everything rolling. So you're navigating all of this. And then here we are back at day one, kids going back to school. And today's episode stemmed from a conversation that I had with a client, and I'm going to share kind of her story, but then I'm also going to share a story personally, because that's what I do here, is sharing these experiences to hopefully bring you guys some value, some ways that you can look at situations that potentially come up. And by clicking on this episode, you saw it's called Resize the Frog. And I don't know if you've ever heard, but, Brian Tracy's method of Eat the Frog, it actually stemmed from Mark Twain. Now stick with me here. So once that he said that if the first thing you do each morning is eat a live frog, you can go throughout the day with the satisfaction of knowing that it is probably the worst thing that's going to happen to you all day long. So if you didn't know, hopefully I just gave you that little tidbit that you can share with somebody, a fun story that Eat the Frog actually came from Mark Twain. But really, when you look at Brian Tracy, when he breaks it down, is that in reality, your frog is your biggest, most important task. It's the one that you are most likely going to procrastinate on. And if you don't do something about it, it's probably going to hurt your business. It's going to hurt your production. It's going to hurt maybe your schedule that you're trying to set back in place, or get the kids on, get the whole family on as we're coming back to school, kind of all of these different things. And so everybody's frog is a little bit different. But when I look at Brian Tracy's method, it's like identify that frog, then you eat it first. And first thing in the morning is what they're saying is like, that's your hardest thing. Do it first thing in the morning. And then you repeat. And some people avoid the frog. Some people love eating the frog from the beginning. For me, I wanted to talk about it from a little bit different perspective, because I do agree with Brian Tracy. I do think that there is value in doing kind of the hardest thing first. And there's so many studies out there that do back that up. That being said, is that sometimes I think we need to resize or reframe the frog, because some days we just don't feel like eating it, right? Or we don't know where to start eating the frog. And it becomes so daunting, and that's where that procrastination and the avoidance comes from. And so we need to break it down into bite-sized pieces so that we can find solutions. And by breaking it down into those bite-sized pieces, that eating the frog doesn't seem so daunting. I don't know about you. I'll keep a to-do list, or I'll keep a progression. I'm changing some new things on my schedule right now. I'll share that maybe in another episode, but it's not always the best time for me in the morning to do my most daunting, hardest task, I've found. I don't know if you have too, but sometimes I'm like, I have other things that are actually more pressing right now that I need to take care of. That being said, that frog is sitting there and I'm like, dang it, I gotta tackle that. I gotta eat the frog. I need to do it, right? And you hear me even using these words of like, I have to, I need to, right? And that's part of this whole talk here. But if we can reframe and resize the frog, it's not such a big deal. But when we think of it as this huge thing, this elephant, let's call it, is like, holy cow, there's no way I'm going to be able to do it. But by resizing it, you're like, that's not so bad. I can eat that frog leg. Gross. Never have I ever. I don't know that I would. Just kidding. But let's dive in here because I want to kind of break this down in two stories that hopefully you can relate to. And then I'm going to give you the framework on resizing your frog. So whatever it is, whether it's personal, whether it's in your professional, in your career, whatever it is, you can actually have some tactical tools to be able to use and get that frog out of your way in what works best for you. So let me dive into the first one. This is with a client that I have. She used to work. Now her husband is very high in a corporation. They just moved to another state. Lots of new things happening for them. And she is a mom of triplets. Let me repeat that, triplets. Okay. So she already has a very busy job. And in the summer, kids, like I said, have their schedule, but then they come off their schedule. And she was finding and placing a little bit of guilt. I don't know who else does this too. I'm over here raising my hand when you like have that frog and you're like, I don't even know how to do it. Now I feel horrible because it's not what I want. And the kids are doing this and what have you. But she felt that the kids were on their electronics too many hours per day. And I said, okay. So then I asked, how many hours are they on per day? And she said 3. And I said, okay. How many hours, like what is the goal, max hours that you want them on electronics? And she said 2. And I said, okay, great. So what we're looking at is finding 1 hour per day that you want to fill their time with something other than an electronic. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so here we are, where originally you were thinking and having this guilt of, oh my gosh, my kids are on for 3 hours per day. I got to fill that time with 3 hours. But then when you actually chunk it down, the real goal is actually just eliminating 1 hour per day. Now, like I said, she's got triplets, right? So it's not just one child. We have three children that we have to go through to be able to, fill that time. Then I said, all right, well, let's make a list. What are all the things that you do throughout the day that the kids could help with? So gave her a few minutes. She jotted down, there was 25 things on the list. And I'm like, this is all doable. And she said, absolutely. And I said, so what is going to be your goal going forward now? And she said, I'm going to make a plan each night, have what the kids are going to do for 1 hour, and set parameters for them on the remaining 2. And I'm like, great, how do you feel? And she's like, totally different. In her mind, what was going on before is she had no way to eat her frog. She had no way to take care of this, and the guilt was daunting on her. And so she was able to, because we chunked it down and because we resized what the frog was, now she was able to find solutions to be able to take care of that frog. So then another example for me, right? So I'm going to share this one relating to business. Of course, I have them with the kids, but I thought that was a really good one to share with my client that had triplets. Now, the frog for me was learning our new software that we have for our commercial contracting business. This software is pretty invasive. It's a lot, let's say. And it's not my first time dealing with software. And that's really what I started doing, was being like, okay, my frog is that I have to learn, like that word, have to learn. I get to learn this new software that is actually going to make us be more efficient within the construction company. Okay, that's a lot, especially with running the podcast, the kids, the horses, the family, and other items going on within the construction company. And I'm like, all right, well, what is actually the main goal of the software from my perspective of using it? It's going to be billing for all projects. When is my time frame that I want to be able to start implementing this? August 15th. I'm recording this on August 7th, right now, just to give you guys a time frame. Then my next question was, what do I have in previous experience that will help me devise the plan for learning this software? Well, I spent 16 years in the medical industry, and of course we had software being able to manage our clients, being able to manage prescription count, sales quotas, call tactics, all of these different things. So then what I was like, all right, well, what is the first project that I could work on? Well, it's Project 702. We name them by addresses. Project 702. Okay, what is my goal that I want to have that done by? August 11th. Okay, then it allowed me to chunk it down. I resized the frog from learning the entire software to learning the billing to then learning the billing through one project by using this software. Now, what's important for me is, like I said, I have all these other things that I am managing, right? Our VA team, everybody. That is important for me to manage all of my frogs so that I can actually dedicate the time and the bandwidth to be able to take on this new software, to take on this new frog. So for me, eating the frog first thing in the morning when it came to this software was not doable. It wasn't realistic. And so as much as we all hear, all these great things of like, do your hardest thing first in the morning, that's not always true. And so I looked at my calendar. I looked at all the other tasks that I wanted to make sure that were off my plate before. And then I set the time to manage this frog of the software accordingly in my calendar. I started with the videos, I started with the demo account, and then moved on to the actual project within that I was going to learn the billing on. So I share that to show you the thought process of resizing those frogs so they don't seem so daunting for you. When you do that, not only do you find solutions easier, but you actually do it. The frog is no longer a frog, it's a tadpole. And so that you can tackle it when it's best for you and you have that plan of action because you have now resized it and reframed that frog. Now, just to kind of take you through the framework of both of these examples. So if you have a frog right now, here is a framework that you can use to apply to it to resize it. So first off, you got to name that frog, name that daunting task, name that big thing that's really important that you need to do. So first you have to name it, but then you have to understand what is the real goal if I accomplish this frog? What is the desired end result? Because that may be very different from naming that. And you could see essentially from my example with the new software to really what it is that I need to eat within that frog. Set a timeline, that would be number 3. What is the timeline for that completion? Chunk down then into 3 to 5 bites and prioritize those bites. Now, this is a big one for me. Number 5 was to move other items out of the way. So I know it kind of might seem counterintuitive. Oh, your frog is your biggest one. Well, yeah, your frog is your biggest one. Doesn't mean that you can let the other ones go. So you have to make sure that you move those other important tasks out of the way to open up your mind to be able to take in and learn and capture and solve all the problems of this big frog. And then last but not least, you want to schedule when is the best time to complete the frog. Don't leave it off your schedule. If it is that important and being named as a frog, it needs to be on your schedule in a certain time. So, taking you guys back through it, gave you a few examples. I hope that this helps kind of give maybe a different perspective on that lovely saying that originally came from Mark Twain, but Brian Tracy, his Eat the Frog method, it has definitely changed so many lives. And this is just a different perspective on it with a couple real live examples. So I hope that you found some type of tool today. And again, if you did, my only ask would be to share it with someone else, because someone else is probably trying to figure out how to eat their frog, and you could be their hero by showing them this kind of method of resizing it so that they can take it down. Don't forget, join me twice a week on episodes here on the Business of Being Healthy show, and I cannot wait to see you till next time.